Hello everyone and welcome to another one of my album reviews. My name is Christian Eschbach and today we are looking at a cover album, and this is going to be The Flaming Lips and Stardeath and White Dwarfs covering Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. Took two bands to do this. Now, I laugh at that because if you've ever seen Pink Floyd's Pulse Tour, they literally had two bands. So the fact that it took two bands to do this album, interesting. So anyways, it is from beginning to end, song for song, exact same as Pink Floyd's album. Starts with Speak to Me and Breathe, On the Run, Time. Now, an interesting little note in here. If you've ever watched my review, which was the last review I did, it was of Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, for obvious reasons. Okay, so now when I did the review for that, the CD copy I had didn't list things like they did on the original album, whereas this does. Because this lists time, and then it lists Breathe Reprise, which, if you had the original album, you know that's how it's listed on there. Most of the time on compact disc, it hasn't been. Not sure entirely why. But anyways, so after that, Great Gig in the Sky, Money, Us and Them, Any Color You Like, Brain Damage, and Eclipse. Okay, so it's the same album. Okay. Now, also, Henry Rollins and Peaches appear on this album as well. Now, the Flaming Lips are an experimental indie band. I don't know a lot about them. When I was in grade 9, they had a hit, and I think it's like their only radio hit, She Don't Use Jelly or something like that. Never really been into them, but I've always known of them and have been aware of them and what they do. Stardeath and White Dwarfs, never heard of prior to this. Henry Rollins, I know both from Black Flag and from Rollins separate as Rollins Band and also as the radio personalities become. And Peaches, I only know a micro bit about. I know she's related to the punk scene. I know her and Iggy Pop did a video together. I don't know too much outside of that. Now, basically, Peaches is used to fill in for female voices. You can see where this is going to go. Henry Rollins, now if you listen to the original Dark Side of the Moon and you listen to my review, you'll hear me talking about all the clips that were spliced in from interviews with band members or friends of the band or whatnot, right? Well, Henry Rollins does all those audio clips in here because they replicate all those audio clips even. So wherever you hear those insert lines being redone, most of those I'm assuming are Henry Rollins based off the way they've got it all labeled out in the back. It's kind of a match, follow the line, who does what on which spot, blah 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 blah, whatever. So the album opens up with Speak to Me. Now, it's not Speak to Me and Breathe. It sounds similar to the original. You can hear the original. You can hear the genesis. You can hear the inspiration. It is not a note for note cover, and it is done using different instruments and different instrumentation, and arrangements are basically, otherwise it's basically the same. They more or less play the same songs. When you get to On the Run, it's they focus a little, like Breathe and On the Run, they get a little more into focusing on the bass and kind of dwelling on the bass a little bit. But the first three songs, you really don't notice a huge difference compared to the original Dark Side of the Moon album. When you get to Time, things start changing. The arrangements are changed up a little bit in Time. The feel of the song is switched up a little bit. The clocks that go off in the beginning, the whole intro part is changed up, like clocks go off, but it's more like a morning alarm clock. Getting up in the morning, it's more artistic, conceptualized to portray that waking up, getting your life or going, stuff like that on this than it was on the original. The original was just the clocks going off. The music itself, completely different yet the same. Like, you can hear the original music in there, but at the same time, it doesn't sound like the original album. It sounds like someone totally went, whoa, let's have some fun with this, and screwed with it. And that's exactly what it is. But it's faithful at the same time. It's an interesting interpretation. If you're open to interpretations, it's very interesting. From there, we go into Great Gig in the Sky. Okay, so unless you have, the right combination of women to sing that, it's not happening. Peaches is not a vocalist I have known to be in any way a singer. Like I said, I know her best from the punk kind of scene. So they kind of have Peaches scream. They have her redo, have her do as, close to the original sort of, but don't be afraid to scream it. And then they put this cool effect over top of it, which makes it sound all kind of out there and wobbly and a little echoey and reverby and, just kind of whatever they could to kind of help her voice along the way there. So after Great Gig in the Sky, we're on to Money. Now, I really like what they did with this one because, once again, completely different perspective, alterations, manipulations, stuff like that. This album was released in 2009. Money is not the same. Even if it was recorded in 2008, it was not the same as it was when it was recorded in 72 originally. Digital Money now. So the band actually took that interpretation and ran with it, and it has an digital interpretation of the money going off. The whole entire song kind of has that digital kind of sound to it. You don't get the classic cash register clink, ching, ching, ching kind of sound. Instead, it's a lot of buzz and a lot of beeps and blips and stuff like that, like you might hear using modem or whatnot, right? It's not quite the same as that, obviously. They don't want to destroy the song. But it is a different interpretation for that reason, where they kind of go and give it a very modern vibe of what a modern vibe of Money would be. I love it. I think it was fantastic. If you're a Pink Floyd purist, you'll probably hate it. Us and Them is probably one of the closest to the original versions there is on here. I don't think they really played with it much. I don't think they really experimented with much. They just kind of went out there and did it. And then when you get into the last three songs on the album, last three tracks, Any Color You Like, Brain Damage, and Eclipse, it's really kind of the same and yet a little bit different. Like they get a little varied compared to the originals, but they stay a little more traditional, a little more true to it, a little more classic. Eclipse, I think, was probably one of the ones where they tried to stay the absolute closest to it. Brain Damage, too, felt like they tried to stay pretty faithful and pretty close. But the whole way around, if you want to hear a really interesting interpretation of Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, this album is totally worth getting. I picked it up used. I found a used copy of it. I fell in love with it right away. I still love to throw it on now. I picked it up. When I first heard it, I thought it was kind of a gimmick album. A buddy of mine brought it over one day. When my buddy brought it over and threw it on for me, I'm all like, ooh, this is really, really cool. And I ended up rushing out to buy a copy of it right away. He's like, well, why didn't you just take a copy of mine? I'm like, nah, I got to have a CD copy. And I'm glad I do. Because I like, especially because I got a couple of people in the house that, I don't want to say they're Pink Floyd purists, but they really love their Floyd. They don't particularly care for when I put this one on, but me, man, it's the artistic interpretation of an album that's been done, and an album that, everybody's covered a song off of, and, Money itself is one of those songs that every bassist is supposed to kind of learn that riff. If you don't learn that riff, it feels like it's wrong, But at the same time, this version doesn't rely on them dwelling on that. The only riff I find that they really go hardcore dwelling on would be the riff from Breathe. The doom, do, do, doom, do, 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 do. They hammer that hard on here. They hammer that really hard on here. But overall, it's just really, it's a fantastic and it's a really cool album. And it's enough to make me say, if you're watching this and you know any albums from either the Flaming Lips or Stardeath and White Dwarfs, I don't know anything from any of them, suggest an album to me. Leave it in the comments or whatnot. I'm looking for an album to pick up to check out from these guys. Until next time, love you all, peace, and take care. Don't forget to hit subscribe to get notifications for the next videos.